You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the quantum leap accelerator and vanished. He woke to find himself trapped in the past, facing mirror images that were not his own, and driven by the unknown force to change history for the better. His only guide on this mission is Al, an observer from his own time who appears in the form of a hologram that only Sam can see and hear. So Dr. Beckett finds himself leaping from life to life, striving to put right what once went wrong and hoping each time that the next leap would be the leap home. Headcanon accepted. This is Dan Wickline's backstory. You're watching In Stores This Week. I did a pretty decent job memorizing that in an hour.
How is there not, or there may be, but if there isn't, how is there not an adult film using that premise? And then you can just jump from scene to scene.
Jump from genitals to genitals?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, goodness.
I don't know. But like I said, I'm pretty proud of myself for memorizing that in an hour.
Good job.
Yeah, that was time well spent.
Yeah. I mean, it was that or take a nap.
So
I did that.
It's going to be one of those shows, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of, because, you know. My brain just went blank in the middle of a sentence, so it's definitely going to be one of those shows.
yes.
Welcome to In Stores This Week. This is a show where we talk about books that are in stores this week. If you can't tell by the title. I'm Kyle, that is Jay, and Dan. We read a bunch of books.
We did.
Some of them were real garbage.
I don't know if there was any real garbage ones, was there?
Yes.
I'm curious which ones you think are
And
real
then
garbage.
some of them were books that were really good that I fell asleep in the middle of, and so I don't remember any of it.
We're real professional here.
April 1st is not a Tuesday next year. I thought we could do a whole episode of made-up books.
I think we do that more weeks than we don't already.
Some of these books I wish were made up.
That's what I'm saying, man. There was some rough ones this week.
Well, since they're fiction, aren't they all made up?
And that's why Dan's the smart one.
It's true. Yeah, so Jay's back from vacation.
Yes.
I'm leaving on vacation in 2 weeks, but I'll still be here for the show because
They let you have another vacation? They let you have another vacation?
Yes.
So where are you going to work for?
Baltimore.
Oh.
If the Orioles make the playoffs, I'm going to see an Orioles game. I could not get tickets to the Ravens game. That's the weekend I'm there. But what are you going to do? I am going to go see the Maryland Civil War Museum because I want to know where Maryland comes down on the Civil War. If you'll recall, Maryland wanted to be in the South, but because of its location proximal to D.C., they were not allowed to by presidential fiat and martial law. So I want to see where they come down on that in their museum.
Interesting.
Yeah. We should probably talk about comics now, though, right?
No. Since the North won, you think that they would go, yeah, we were with them the whole time.
That's what I'm kind of hoping the museum is. Be like, yeah, no. We wound up on the right side. No, you didn't have to make us. No.
There were a few bad seed, but overall, we all wanted to be, yay, North. Yeah, go.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
I heard the vaguest reference the other day, and it was a football reference, but it was a reference to how bad the defensive line was, or the offensive line was on a team, and they equated it to a name that I don't remember now, and someone had to go, "Who's that?" They go, "Oh, that was Lincoln's bodyguard."
That's a rough one.
That is.
It's a rough one. Ohio State in college football put up 77 points on the University of Toledo. I am the only member of my family not to have gone to Ohio State, and the University of Toledo is like 5 minutes that direction.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is the only team Ohio State has put up more points and yards on is Bowling Green State University, which is about 20 minutes that direction. So, and they're a big rivalry. So, by the transitive property of math, Toledo is still better than Bowling Green.
Okay. Technically, the three of us could put about 77 points on the University of Toledo.
That's not true. They can really score the football this year. They have a quarterback who, if he was at a real school with like actual resources, could be something very special, but he's not.
Why doesn't he transfer?
I think he's dumber than a bag of hammers. I think the reason he's there is because nobody else would take him.
I didn't think that for certain colleges, intelligence wasn't that important when it came to football.
It's not. But apparently you have to have some. You don't have to have a lot.
Yeah, as I watch a lot of these football players who go up there and you go, and in all their speeches, you would think as a professional, if you're going into professional sports, you'd go ahead and take a speech class so you could do the interviews and learn around those things.
True. What's up, Lyle? Welcome back. Don't get fired. Let's start in on the books, shall we?
Okay.
All
right. We'll start here. Beatrix Rose Vigilante number 3.
This felt like it was starting to go someplace last issue. And
Wait, we read the last issue?
Yeah, we all did. Yeah, it felt like it was starting to go someplace last issue, and then nope, turns out it's not.
Yeah, I don't remember ever having read an issue of this before.
Yeah, that's how great it is.
Yeah.
I remember you reading the issues before because you complained about them both.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was an indicator.
Yeah.
Yep. But like I said, second issue, it felt like things were starting to go someplace. First issue just felt like your generic vigilante story. Second issue is like, oh, wait, now there's some twists. There's some stuff going on. Third issue is, yeah, I really don't care about either of these people. Yep. I want to.
For digital-only content, I won't be buying it when it comes out in print, and I wouldn't be buying it if it was digital.
Yeah. There's so many cliches in this. And I know cliches are in comics, but I mean, it's the opposing characters having a similar backstory. Oh, you didn't think I loaded this gun, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was very cliche.
Was the villain that they showed in the front, is he like a super or something? Because he grabs this security guard and is like holding this dude with one arm by the neck. Like just one-handed, just holding this dude up. And then throws him out the window. Spoiler alert. For a book that probably nobody else is going to read. When we get books like this, I wish we had a longer show because I want a segment, and not to stroke his ego too much, but Dan being the superstar writer that he is, I want to be like, Dan, how would you fix this book? Does it need fixing? As a writer, do you see something in this book that I don't?
I could tell you how to fix this book. Save your time. Cancel the book.
Look, okay. That's probably enough heaping on it. Let's just go, since we have Lyle here in the chat. We didn't
talk.
love it, and we'll move on.
Real talk, though.
Lyle
if you're
loved it.
looking for a book, I got the joke. I just was going to no sell it. If you're looking for a book like this, check out the previous Jennifer Blood series from Dynamite. I think part of my problem with this series is that Jennifer Blood did this right, and regularly does this right when they do Jennifer Blood series. And this is just like a swing and a miss at a series that we just saw how to do properly.
What I don't remember up until this issue is that before it seemed like it was just Beatrix Rose. Now it's Mark Dawson's Beatrix Rose, written by Stephanie Phillips. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. So this isn't her book. This is somebody else's character?
Right.
I didn't remember any of that from the first 2 issues. It's like, who's Mark Dawson? I've heard of Stephanie Phillips. I don't know who Mark Dawson is.
But I would imagine that would be somebody picking up a... I'm going to forget the name of the guy now. Never mind. There's a big character that I'm thinking of. They did a TV show of it. The Dresden Files. Picking that up and not knowing that the last person to write Dresden Files wasn't the original writer of the Dresden Files.
What?
The last Dresden Files series, the comic, wasn't written by the guy who created the character.
That's not true. Jim Butcher and Mark Powers have written all the Dresden File comics.
Okay, I didn't know Mark Powers did the original. I thought it was just Jim Butcher.
Jim Butcher writes all the novels.
Right.
Jim Butcher and Mark Powers do all the comics together.
Right. I just knew Mark Powers, I thought Jim Butcher was the original creator for the novel. I didn't realize that Jim was involved in the comics.
He's involved in all the comics, and all the comics are canon to the series.
Right, but it'd be like not knowing that it came from a novel.
Yes.
You're picking it up and going, this isn't right. So, anyway. Yeah. Van Helsing, Flesh of My Blood. I'm just going to go ahead and say there's too much title for this book.
I really like the art on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Which Zetascope sometimes are hit or miss, where they go through like 97 artists in a 22-page book. This one seemed like it was one artist all the way through. There's a consistency to it. And there's been a consistency to Van Helsing. You either love her or hate her, but there's a consistency to her. And she does seem to have a little bit of a different personality than the other characters. So, didn't love it, but it was entertaining enough.
I actually enjoyed this one. I liked the story. The art was good. The creature design was awesome. I loved how that looked. The page count kind of felt it wasn't too long, but it didn't truncate the story either. It kind of felt like just right there on that perfect amount of page. I felt like a lot of issues that I have with these stories with Zetascope weren't really in this one. Like, there wasn't a crossover really. I thought it was a really good book, and this felt like it was tailored to this character. This character felt like she belonged here, like not like how some of the other stories are so interchangeable with every character. It felt like this story was made for her, for me at least.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
If it wasn't for the pretty pictures, I would have put the book down 10 pages in. Did nothing for me, but the art on this issue was fire. Like, I really did enjoy it. And like Dan said, sometimes we get these books and it's like, hey, let's have every creative do one panel. Every artist we can get will do one panel in this book. But the artist on this book, whoever it was, wound up doing a perfect job all the way through. And that kept me going. right? I kept going just to see what the next panel looked like, even after I lost interest in reading the content. So I read the whole book just being pulled along by the art, which is something. Like that's the mark of a properly done job as an artist. So,
Yeah.
All right. Another book that I don't remember reading any of the previous issues of, but I know we have. Elvira in Horrorland #4.
You know, you said that before going into the third issue, too.
Right. I never remember having read this book until I'm about halfway through these issues.
I think we need to have an intervention here, my friend. I think you're starting to have some memory issues.
Well, I think the problem is that with a lot of these Dynamite books, they don't differentiate themselves for me in a big enough way. And what I mean by that is this like, I don't remember Elvira in Horrorland different from Elvira meets Vincent Price, different from whatever previous Elvira book we've read is. So until I'm about halfway through, it doesn't click for me what we read in issue 3 of this series, because it takes me that long to figure out, okay, this is the series where this thing has happened.
Well, to be fair, David Avalon, the writer, isn't approaching this as separate. Even though they're being done as miniseries, he's approaching them as an ongoing series because they do reference all the other ones, and that's kind of rare. Normally, you might get but this is continuing on. So the Vincent Price thing, she didn't get out of the Vincent Price world. She ended up jumping around with Fellini's clicker or remote control. You know, so. But the first one, she went into Psycho, and then she went into The Shining, and then into Aliens, and now into Nightmare on Elm Street. But then it goes into sort of the new Nightmare one, where Wes Craven was deciding if he was going to make a new Freddy movie, and that got very meta. And I think David Avalon is hitting it out of the park with this series because it's so many in jokes, and the references to himself, the references to the artists. Suddenly they end up in the TVA, and we get art from previous series, and it's like, oh, hey, it's nice to see Acosta's work again, and they're referencing artist Dave Acosta. So,
see, and that's the other thing, right? For this show, every week we read like 10 to 12 books. And then I usually, for my own reading, have another 10 or so books that I read.
Mm-hmm.
You got to really stand out to make a mark.
Well, that's
and because it usually takes me so long to remember. Okay, in the last book we were in these horror movies, and now we're in this horror movie, and oh, here's this little meta twist for this. That's why I struggle with this book. I think they're good. I think they're very good. But it's almost like the uptick. You know what I need? I need a previously in Elvira in Horrorland page. Just give me a couple of panels to be like, hey, remember this idiot? Here's what's happening.
Well, what's funny is that you said that, and when you said it, I made this face, and I saw Jay made the same face of surprise when you said the books don't differentiate, because this book is so different than just about everything else from Dynamite.
No.
You know?
I'm talking about it doesn't differentiate from previous Elvira books. And if David Avalon's not writing them that way, that would make sense.
Yeah.
But then that gives me the qualm of why is this a number 4 and not a number 8?
Because people will buy number 1s more than they will buy number 9.
Well, they'll also buy 36 covers of the same book, apparently. But that doesn't mean Dynamite's business model is correct.
Well, their business model is what makes the money. So
I understand. But like I said, I think the big thing that would help these for me is a previously on. Give me a little reminder of what I've read before, and it would go a long way to getting me in on page 1.
See, I got to agree with Triple B. I love this series. I love it. Every time I see we have this on here, I'm just like, yes, I want it to be the first book I read, but I wait. I wait just in case we have crummy books beforehand. This one always picks me back up. I love the writing, the jokes, the visuals. Uh, I love the fact that she jumped into multiple movies from the same franchise. I love that. Uh, and since Dan already said it, yes, the TVA cameo, I thought that was gold. I love that. And
Wow.
this, well, wow. I know it's amazing that Jay loves something. I mean, this book is Elvira quantum leaping into 80s movies. Like what's not to love about that?
I'm still trying to figure out if Kyle needs a previously on or a Prevagen.
Probably both.
Some ginkgo.
Yeah.
Ginkgo biloba, yeah, absolutely.
Hello, Scotty, Mark, Triple B, Lyle, Kenneth. Glad you could all make it.
All right. Next up, this is one I didn't have a problem remembering the first issue of. I really dug the first Lady Hell. I thought this book maybe needed a little bit of a kick in the pants, just to get maybe find another gear. But I still am enjoying the concept and the story, so it wasn't so bad.
Yeah. I didn't find this one as good as the first one either. I still thought it was good though. We got some exposition. Exposition. There we go. Some motives. Another baddie. I'm definitely down to read more of this one. I find this character, because I've never read this character before. So I find this character super interesting, and I definitely want to learn more about her. There's some weird comedic beats in it that they didn't really have too much of that in the first issue, if I remember correctly. Like there was a little bit, but although I was like, some of it was kind of groan inducing, there's two that made me laugh no matter how stupid it was. One was the seagull. I laughed at that. And the other one I laughed at was the old man in the hospital room. But yeah, I liked it. So
the sequel made me think of Kyle. And it made me think of Kyle because I picture him doing what they do to the seagull to the Raven in Sandman to try to get it to stop sounding like Patton Oswalt. Do a voice, do something different, make your voice sounds different. The reason you don't remember reading much with Lady Hell is there hasn't been much with Lady Hell. I believe she's a construct of the more recent books because she's kind of a replacement for Lady Death.
Oh, okay.
When Chaos went bankrupt and ended up being sold, Brian Pulido sold Lady Death shortly before that to Mark Alessi of CrossGen, and then they made a deal to buy it back later on. So when Chaos got sold, Lady Death wasn't part of it, and now that there's this revival going on, that role has been kind of missing. So Lady Hell is the new version of that figurehead in the universe, at least as best I remember. I thought it was interesting, Lady Demon popping up. It makes sense that she's kind of the big bad in this. But it also seemed kind of early to reveal the big bad, so maybe there's more to it. I thought the art was good. I thought it was a solid story. I'm liking what they're doing here. Again, it's a newer character, but they're really starting to kind of develop her. So I'm happy to keep going with this one to see where it goes next.
Yeah, like I said, normally this would be the kind of thing that an issue or two and I'd be done. But I'm really digging it, so I'm happy to keep going with it as well. All right, next up, yet again another book I don't remember having read until I'm 4 pages in. Samurai Sonia, and then 4 pages in, it hits me that I've really been loving this book, and this issue was I'm gonna say fine to good. But I think it's because this is a build-up. Like, I think I was hoping for a little more payoff that's coming in issue 5. and they were still kind of building the tension, building to what's going to eventually happen in issue 5 when Samurai Sonya goes full on Sonya. And so it was a really good time. Like, I really dig this kind of concept for Sonya, and would like to see more of this sort of let's take a sword wielder and stick her in other sword wieldy times.
I unfortunately am starting to fall out of love with this book. And I think it's because the first 3 issues probably could have just been one issue. I mean, it's starting to get that, here's a mini boss this week, here's a mini boss, here's a mini boss, here's a mini boss. Final issue, we're going to finally get the big boss. And I mean, unless they pull some kind of Marvel trick out of their bag, I just do not think the payoff in that final issue is going to do it for me. I mean, but I could be wrong, but the way this thing is going, it almost feels like we're going to get a Dallas Bobby Ewing, it was all a dream kind of finish.
Are you old enough to even know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had grandparents, man. I watched Dallas with them.
Wow.
I'm kind of in between both of you. I'm enjoying the series from the idea of the concept of the character, but there does seem to lack an urgency. We do seem to be kind of spinning our wheels to get to whatever the ending's going to be. It doesn't seem to be as much driving the story, but a good ending can solidify this for me. So, and I do like the idea of expanding the Sonya universe, and Kyle saying, sword wielders, different things. Maybe we can get a Musketeer Sonya next. That would be awesome. Set in the time of the Three Musketeers.
You call it French Sonya?
Yep. I think that would be a lot of fun, with a rapier, and if only Nick was around, we could pitch that idea. Oh, hey,
right.
Nick. Good.
Right.
Nick, how you doing?
Yeah, we want French Sonya with cameos by French Stewart.
Oh, wow. Oh, there's a vague reference. By the way, guys, as Nick pointed out, please hit the thumbs up button, the like buttons, all those things, subscribe. And remember our member services we've got going now. If only we had a commercial that could explain member services, that would be a good thing to run. But
we have a new one coming that's very funny.
Oh. Good. Oh, good, because we totally missed it on the first one. The whole funny thing.
Yeah, this one's funnier.
Excited.
Does anybody know where I can find a burnt out Chevy Malibu?
Or a Chevy Malibu and some matches?
Yes. No, like I said, I like this series. It is slow. It is all of these things, but I like the idea of Red Sonja not being in some sort of sword and sorcery world. Like the samurai era of feudal Japan is a very realistic thing that you can kind of point your finger at, right? Mm-hmm. So I like sticking her in more of that. Like you said, French Revolution era with the Musketeers, or I would love to see her with the guy from Temple of Doom with the big, I can't think of the name of the scimitar. Mm. Some things that you can actually okay, historically this happens now. I think it'd be very fun.
Yeah.
Lyle, doesn't matter. Shellier the better. Up next, Frankenstein New World #2. I was really high on issue 1. Issue 2 comes down a little bit from that high. We're starting to understand more about the world in which this story takes place, but I don't feel like the plot was significantly moved forward. And that was, a little bit frustrating. I would have liked to have seen it go a little bit further forward than where it went to.
I do like the fact that we get a little bit of history on the New World. but we get it from the frog people. And I do like the fact that, I say this somewhat sarcastically, but Frankenstein has the ability to have the ability that he needs at the moment. It's like, now we speak their language. When did Frankenstein get that ability?
True.
Yeah, just suddenly he's a universal translator. I do like the Frankenstein design, by the way, because they just avoided the whole universal monster look and went, no, we're just going to look like it's a dead body thrown together. You know? So, but the new world is very, very psychedelic. You know? It's like, did Magnola and Golden get together and have a few gummies before they decided what this place should look like? We're going to have like these walking plants with like stems coming out the top, and we're going to have some talking frogs. And I've met Mike Mignola, and he doesn't sound like this at all. This sounds more like Harvey Firestein. But anyway, so yeah, I just wonder how that came about.
Did you see the flying stingrays, man?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big flying stingrays. Get them all over the place.
Hey, John, how's it going, man? I usually see John on Comic Collectibles. Thanks for showing up.
Hey,
John. What a beautiful, just acid trippy world they've created with this one. That was the first thing I thought of when I was like, wow. For me, I thought the story was great. And, is this... So it says from the world of Hellboy. So obviously this is somehow connected to the Hellboy universe, I would assume. I don't ever need Hellboy to show up or anybody from those books to show up in this. I think Frankenstein is a great character. I'm excited to learn more about him. And I believe, honestly, he could carry this story by himself. Now, that's not saying if they ever decided somewhere down the road, hey, why don't we cross this over with Hellboy? That I'm going to be like, nah, don't do that. Don't do that. But as it stands right now, I think it's a great book. I think it's a great book.
I think that the Frankenstein creature was introduced in Hellboy, but we're much further in the future now.
Okay.
And speaking of that, Lyle asked, are these books out now? All of these books come out into stores tomorrow, except for the Comixology one we talked about in the beginning, the Beatrix Rose. That's actually available on Comixology right now. That comes out on Tuesday. But all of these other books are in stores tomorrow.
Actually, a book we haven't talked about yet is out next week.
Which one?
The Roadie.
Really?
Yes.
They sent it with tomorrow's date.
The email came out to this afternoon, delayed 1 week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it was just the box didn't get to Diamond in time.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm with all of you guys on like everything you've said so far. But I love Mike Mignola and I like Frankenstein. So just give me more. All right. Stuff of Nightmares #1 by R.L. Stein. And another person with initials for their name. This is not. It's A.L. Kaplan, by the way. This is not Goosebumps.
No.
This is not Fear Street. This is not your normal R.L. Stein book. And I don't know how I feel about it. I will say I liked the storytelling, but the art felt weird. It felt incomplete at some points and a little bit slapdash. But that is almost to be expected with the kind of storytelling they're doing. The whole story feels a little bit like, hey, look over here, look over here, look over there. Like it's trying to misdirect you in the storytelling. So I don't know how I feel about it. It has the makings, it really does, but
I don't necessarily think that this is groundbreaking stuff. There wasn't. I mean, everything about it felt like, haven't we done this before? But it's not. It's not anything we've seen. It's just feels little bits like kind of hobbled together, which is interesting because that's what they're doing in the story too. But it was entertaining, and what's funny though is through the whole thing, and you guys may not have gotten this. It might just only be me, but it felt like it was an MST 3000 send up. Like all we needed were the robots talking. That's what was missing. It felt like a movie that Mystery Science Theater 3000 would put on and do their shtick to, or riff tracks.
it does kind of have that Valley of the Dolls kind of feel, or
Yeah,
and then not a bad thing. Like John saying, "Please tell me it's good." I thought it was great. Like I love R.L. Stein's writing. There were just parts of it that I wished had been different. In terms of, I thought maybe the art could have been stronger. I thought the storytelling in and of itself was good.
yeah. It just felt like an old horror movie, like
And
an
also-
old 70s or 60s style B movie horror, which they're I actually like those. So I enjoyed that vibe.
It also had Tales from the Crypt vibes.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing was set up by a crypt keeper type character.
Yeah.
Which was cool. The main cover, by the way, is Francisco Francavilla. And for real, I ordered 4 different covers of this book, including both Tim Jacobus covers. Tim having done all of the original Goosebumps.
What do you think, Jay?
So I say this jokingly, just know that. But I see we're jumping off the Cthulhu train for a little bit and hopping on Tales from the Crypt, because we had the Cullen Bunn book. I want to say there was a Creep Show book. There's who knows what else. But when I saw this, I definitely got that Tales from the Crypt vibe. I will say this: I liked this one more than the Cullen Bunn one we read, and I can't even remember the name of that one. But there were times where it felt like not huge chunks, but just like bits were missing. Like, spoiler alert, somebody dies at the beginning, right? He walks in, he dies. We go back. One of the characters has a case, but she said she got it from a hospital that has something in it. Well, is she telling the truth? Because they never really go back to that part. Like, who was the guy that was killed then? Like, it just felt like something was missing with that. Or were they lying and they killed this guy?
They do mention the guy that was killed later on, when the one said it was an accident, and they went, so was this other guy. So,
oh, okay. See, then that's just my reading comprehension then, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
But it was weird. I thought it was weird, but in a good way, if that makes any sense. It's just, I'd definitely read more of this. I'd definitely read more.
perhaps we can get Prevagen to sponsor the show.
They're gonna have to.
Yeah, we all need it. And I will say, the Cullen Bunn book was called Shock Shop.
Okay.
Strong. I think they were both pretty good. I do like this one better, but I also think it's because I like Bob Stein better.
Mm.
And I love Cullen Bunn. Don't get me wrong, but like R.L. Stein is part of the reason I'm as literate as I am. Like, I read all the Goosebumps books as a kid, and my parents were good with it because at least he's reading something. And then I discovered comic books, and it got real ugly real fast. So, like, you know, it's part of the reason I'm here is because of R.L. Stine. So I'm always going to be down for R.L. Stine. All right. Up next, we have, if it'll let me click the thing, Crashing #1 by Matthew Klein. So this is we've seen this concept kind of before, but I don't know if we've ever seen it kind of this in depth.
Yeah.
Really interesting concept. I really liked the issue. It takes some of the things that DC has done in the past with like the DC New World Order kind of thing. Our heroes are human aspects and a little bit of ER or House or really any medical drama.
Yeah, very House. Very much House.
Very House. And kind of pairs them together into a supernatural procedural doctoral show. And this is a book. Mm-hmm. So it's got a real interesting kind of, what was that movie or show where it was like he was the mob doctor?
Wasn't it called Mob Doctor?
Maybe.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's kind of that. Like, this has a lot of stuff going for it. I think it kind of needs to settle out what it is and isn't. But in a first issue, I think this is a great introduction to all the pieces of what it is.
Yeah, I was surprised. I started off not liking the book and getting to the end going, oh, this is good. Because and if you would have told me, well, it's going to start as this and then become this and then this and add this on top of it, I would have been, that just sounds ridiculous. Why would you even try to do that? But instead, it's like they give it to you slowly in pieces. This is an overworked doctor who used to be an addict, and it just kind of builds from there. And it's like, oh, by the way, there's superheroes in this world. And then there's this other twist that comes at the end. And by the end, you're going, okay, I'm in. And even the art on it, I didn't like the art to start with, but by the end of it, it was the right art for the book. You know, it just kind of, it fit. And it's one of those books that just surprised me because I didn't see any of it coming. And the House reference is great, but the drug and overworked aspect of House, not the Sherlock Holmes aspect of House.
Yeah.
So.
I just meant procedural doctor show.
Yeah.
I like this one. This was not like my favorite, but it definitely was up there. At first, it kind of felt like I was reading Mad or Cracked magazine with the art in some of the places. Kind of felt like that, but pretty soon I was so lost in the story that the art didn't bother me at all. And just like Dan said, you're like, this art works for this. It works for this story. I honestly didn't see that ending coming at all. Like I was like, okay, cool. There's superheroes in this universe. And then when you get to that ending, you're like, where did this come from? So I'm intrigued. I'm excited for the next issue of this.
I found the story incredibly relatable, despite it having superheroes in it. Like, usually you take a relatable concept, you throw superheroes into it, and it becomes unrelatable. But I think we've all at times felt overworked, strung out, held down by our boss, dictated to by relationships and the people around you. And then everybody's had kind of a deep, dark secret. In this world, that deep, dark secret is superheroes. Like, or people with powers, they call them, powered people. And so I think this is a very interesting way to make that kind of thing relatable. So.
Yeah.
I can't relate to the boss thing. I think my boss is awesome. So
your other boss, Jay, at your other job.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Also, don't suck up or I'll make it real bad. All right. Up next is
do I technically have a boss?
I think you do. I think his name is Dan. Anyhow, so this is the roadie. This book is out next week. It's Tim Seeley. It was supposed to be out this week. It was on my list for this week, and then I got an email saying it was delayed till next week. So it's Tim Seeley and Fran Gallen. I will say this: Fran's art on this book is just oh holy heck, it's perfect. I really, really, really like the art on this book. I thought the story at times was a little tough to follow. In terms of it didn't exactly lend itself to a linear sort of frame of thought. But I thought the concept was unique, and I thought the story was interesting. It just took me a little while longer to read it than I would have liked it to.
Fair. My first thoughts when I saw this, I was like, oh, cool. It's going to be like Brutal Legend, the video game with Jack Black from back in the day. Nope. No, it wasn't that. But I think it's awesome. And I want to read more of this right now. I want to know more about Joe. And I kind of want them to use kind of like Arrow, the first couple of seasons. They would do flashbacks to the island that he was on. I kind of would like for them to do flashbacks like they did in this, because, you know, the first part of the story is, I don't know how many years before, and then you get to the main part of the story. I think it'd be cool if they did do kind of like flashback, like Deadpool movie or what have you, just like flashback and show some stuff, because this stuff looks like the premise is awesome. I just want to know more about it.
I want to start by saying that I like Tim Seeley.
Mm-hmm.
He's a friend. He did a great Shadowhawk pinup when I was writing Shadowhawk, and then he sent me the actual art. So Tim Seeley is awesome. I really wanted to like this story. I love the art. And I like the concept, but the story itself just kind of, it felt like something could have happened in the first issue. It's like it's all set up and it's a bit confusing. And it's like they spend the whole time setting the mood of what the story is going to be, and not enough time actually getting into the story. So I'm hoping issue 2 just comes out like blazing fire and takes off, and because I really want to like this story. So,
Yeah.
but one's a little stutter stepped and a little okay, and not very clear until somebody crawls out of the TV, and then it's all tell not show. And
Yeah, it felt like it suffered a little bit from pilot syndrome. You know, like a pilot TV show where it's got to do a lot of setup and not a lot of, you know, it's got a very little sizzle and also very little steak, but you certainly have a pan to put the steak and the sizzle in.
yeah. So this could be great.
Issue 2 comes out the week of October 26th. Hopefully we get a copy and can read it, because I think issue 2, just from the solicitation on it, seems to be okay, hold on to your butts.
The interesting thing, though, is that this didn't come out with all the normal Dark Horse stuff. This came out on its own. This was sent to me by itself in a separate email a couple weeks ago, and I put it where it needed to be and waited for it. So hopefully we'll get it.
Mm-hmm. Lee, I would just recommend, man, easiest thing to do on this one is go back and rewatch the show. Because we each have different opinions on almost everything. So to come up with a consensus list would be tough, but just go back and see which things kind of hit your what's what I'm looking for? Trip your trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Although, Lee, knowing you a little bit, I do think the roadie is for you. In that regard, just because I kind of know a little bit of what you're into from seeing you around. So, just a thought. All right. The book that I was not sure I was going to love this week until page 2. And then I'm like, yeah, shut up, Kyle. You love it. Shut up. This is Bloodshot Unleashed by Dennis Camp. Holy crap on a cracker.
Yeah.
Get
This is
book.
the first new Bloodshot in a little while. And of course, since the movie, all this other stuff, Bloodshot's getting kind of a higher profile for Valiant. It's a little disturbing. This is probably a more mature reader at this point. This is not don't hand this to your 13-year-old without reading it first. There's some things that happen that made me a little uncomfortable. Suicidal type stuff. And it threw me off at first. And I thought, okay, maybe this is the Valiant book I'm not going to love. And then we get into the meat of what the premise of the episode is. And it's like, holy expletive.
Right.
Love the concept of this. Love what they're doing with it. They've created this idea that can go on for a long time. And again, I'm a huge Valiant fan. Valiant is a company I have never worked for, but would kill to work for. And Bloodshot is probably my number 2 character there. This is one of the best premises for the character and start. And this is John Davis Hunt is the art on this. He was doing Shadow Man with Colin Bunn recently. They brought him over here. His artwork is just popping on this. And again, this is just an awesome concept. So,
I will just say in this solicitation, I checked because I thought this was true. This is what Valiant considers its first mature reader's title.
Oh, good.
This is John. This is almost completely divorced from the other Bloodshot stuff. Like, it is a great place to jump in. You need to know almost nothing because it explains it all to you.
Yeah,
and it explains it all to you in a way that makes Bloodshot make more sense than any other origin I've seen them give Bloodshot, right? It's always so complex. And
Mark just asked my question to Dan.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But Bloodshot's origins have almost always been so complex. Yeah. It's been difficult to kind of tell people. No, this is not a one-shot. It is at least a 2-shot. There's solicitation for 2 issues. This is Bloodshot versus another Bloodshot. Like, I'm just going to say it. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but if you liked Bloodshot or you know anything about Bloodshot and you've wanted to see 2 characters like this go at it, this is that.
Yeah.
At some point, it just felt like there were a number of panels where it was like, I have a big gun. And then it cut back to the other guy, I have a bigger gun. And then it cut back to the other guy, no, my gun is bigger. And it's like, where are these coming from? Like, they had a Mary Poppins bag full of weaponry.
And it turns out, yes, he does have a Mary Poppins bag.
Right. Like, it's just like, oh, and now all of a sudden you're driving a giant truck thing. Like, it's just cut to bigger guns and bigger weaponry.
It's Super Soldier War.
Right. Yeah. And it didn't feel contrived or dumb.
No.
Like, it felt like it was an appropriate, humorous moment that would happen, but only between these 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's like when 2 tech guys get together and, well, I have this cord. Well, I have this microphone. Well, I have this mix, like, and you're one-upping each other constantly, but it's appropriate in the setting. That's what this felt like. And I really did dig it. And I've never liked Bloodshot before.
And if you're a D&D guy, think of it as a bad guy with a bag of holding.
Yes. And the bag of holding seems infinite.
Yeah.
You know, Valiant said this was going to be an R-rated book. and they made good on their word.
Yep.
They made good on that word. I wish, or I hope that the next Bloodshot movie gets modeled after this, because this is kind of what I wanted to see in the first Bloodshot movie.
And don't cast Vin Diesel.
No. There's been so many different Bloodshots. You could that was just one in the long line. They could say it like that. But holy cow. I mean, it was violent, and I thought the story was great. I liked the design of Bloodshot. I thought the villain in this was badass. The action scenes were awesome. And that moment with nobody just caught me off guard. Mouth agape caught me off guard. And there's a character that they show you in this, and I think they're only in 2 panels. And I'm like, I want to know what that is. This was a fantastic first issue for me.
But be warned. Again, the opening has some subject matter that if you're particularly sensitive to suicide, be cautious.
Yes.
Right.
You know, so just be warned on that part.
Right. This should come with a trigger warning.
Yeah. No pun intended.
I meant it on every level, every possible level. Puns, not puns, serious, not serious. Like, because it's Bloodshot and because of the content, yes, on a serious level, it should come with one. But also, so many guns.
Yeah.
I just read the solicitation for issue 2, and issue 2 takes place in a place that I've been in my life, like that I've visited.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited for issue 2 now.
All right. So what was Mark's question?
All right. Mark's question was, if Bloodshot and Shadow Man are off the table, what other Valiant characters would you like to work with, Dan?
Okay. Top number 1 would be Ninjak. I'm a huge Ninjak fan. You remember the Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe YouTube series? I actually went down there during filming, got to interview the actor.
Mike Rowe?
Yeah, Mike Rowe, who's awesome. Also got to interview Jason David Frank, and Rowe is awesome. Not a David Frank fan, but so I got to that. It was during the filming of the fight between Bloodshot and Ninjak, so that was awesome. But Ninjak would be my first choice. Exo Man of War would be a lot of fun, and I have to give credit to somebody else, and I can't say what, but I heard a pitch idea for the Eternal Warrior that I thought was brilliant. And there's a reason that this is on the wall right now. So, yeah, but Ninjak would definitely be my number 1 that I would love to write.
So claim or pre-order right now, Dan. I don't care if it's 10 years from now. I'm already claiming. So
a buddy of mine just got picked up a little while ago as an editor at Valiant, and I haven't reached out to him because I don't think I've talked to him since he used to be an editor at Top Cow, which is Rob Levin. I need to reach out to him, but
yeah, Dan, you should do that.
Like John does. That's what he's talking about.
Name
like John.
drops. But no, I'm serious, Dan. You should really reach out. I also think you would have, just having read your Sinbad series, I think you could have some fun with like a Punk Mambo.
Yeah, Punk would be fun. There's a lot of great characters. I tell you the truth, the only character that I don't think I wanted to write before was Harbinger, and then this latest series suddenly made it something that would be fun to play with. You know, the way they kind of boiled it down to just Peter Stanchik and the way they're doing him now. So, yeah, I do really enjoy the Valiant stuff. So,
all right. Well, with all that said, if you are out and you are looking for a comic book shop for which to pick up these books, head over to comicshoplocator.com and type in the zip code where you are, and it will tell you where comic shops are nearby to you. Jay was just on the road last week, and he used Comic Shop Locator to find comic shops near to where he was. I know because he kept texting me. So, do that and find comic shops near to where you are, wherever you are. And then tune back in next Tuesday for more in-stores this week. Dan will be back tomorrow with the Dan Wickline Show, where he will be talking about
Rings of Power.
All right. And on Thursday,
Andor.
Yes.
Star Wars Andor.
I will be back later this week with Nick on the Original Art Show. And Jay will see you guys next week around. So, Lyle, I don't know what you mean by is this open to U.S. customers only? Comic Shop Locator will help you find comic shops wherever you are, so long as they get their books through Diamond Distribution. That's the one caveat there. So head over there and check it out. We will be back next week, and until then, we will see you all next time. Hopefully by then we will have all quantum leaped back into our regular bodies.